Good morning, everybody at Sharnbrook Primary School. My name is Alistair Humphreys. I am an adventurer and an author. I've written The Boy Who Bite the World and then other books for children like Against the Odds. Thank you very much for reading my book. I hope you enjoyed it. Right, you've asked me lots of questions. I'm going to launch straight in and answer them. First of all, I'm going to have a quick little drink of coffee. Question 1. It's hot. Did you meet a Siberian husky on your travels? Asks Natasha. That's a very good question. I don't think I did when I was in Siberia. No. I did once meet a sledge towed by reindeers with their bells jingling around their neck, coming through the snow, which was very magical and Christmassy. But no, I don't think I did meet a husky. Sorry. Chloe, Amy, Evie and Sam wants to know what was my favourite country to ride through. Oh, gosh. I get asked this a lot and I seem to give a different question every time. But the one that pops into my head now was Sudan, which was really hot, desert, sandy. It was really difficult to cross, but the people there were so kind and friendly. So, yeah, that's the answer that comes to my head this morning. Iris, who's your favourite friend that you met on your travels? That's a lovely question. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that before. Gosh. I met a photographer in Kazakhstan called Chris. We became friends. And after I finished cycling around the world, I then went on an expedition to cross Iceland by foot and by little boats called pack rafts. You can watch it on YouTube. And I did that with Chris. So he was a friend that carried on from cycling around the world to become a friend for other things since. Olivia and Grace, what's your favourite food? Oh, also lots of different categories. But it's morning now. That's why I'm yawning and drinking coffee. So if I think of breakfast around the world, in Georgia, little roadside stalls would sell a hot, fresh snack called khachapuri, which is kind of like cheese on toast, hot and fresh and delicious in the mornings. Joseph, did you ever get hurt during your adventures? I did an adventure where I ran a big marathon through the Sahara Desert, 150 miles, and on that I broke my foot. That was pretty painful because I hadn't finished, so I had to keep going with the broken foot for the final day, which was very painful. But I've been quite lucky, I haven't had too many injuries. Harry, Yaroslav and Jaden want to know why I rode a bike around the world. Well, I went around the world because I wanted adventure. I wanted to see new places. I like where I live. But maybe there's some interesting places in the other side of the world. And I like my friends here where I live. But maybe if I go and meet people thousands of miles away, they'll teach me different things about the world. So I was curious to try different parts of the world. I wanted a challenge. I wanted to try to do something difficult to see whether I could work really hard and achieve something hard. I wanted to write a book, so I needed a story to write. And the reason I went by bike was because walking is too slow. Motorbike is too fast. You don't see everything. You just zoom on by. And also too expensive. And also not as much of an adventure. I like the challenge of a bike, but it's not too fast, it's not too slow, it's just perfect. Rosin asks, were you scared at any point? Gosh, probably the most scared I was at the start, and what I was scared of then was just my imagination. It was imagining all these bad things that might happen. What if this happens? What if this happens? And get really scared imagining stuff. But that's a bit of a waste of time because most of those things I worried about never actually happened. It's much more sensible to just go to begin the adventure and then deal with any problems if they ever come along. Don't just imagine thousands of problems before you even start. Anya says, how did you not give up? Crikey. It was hard. I was tempted to give up a lot. But But I also wanted it to be hard. If it was really easy to cycle around the world, I wouldn't have been doing it. I wanted to see if I could make myself keep going. I knew that if I gave up, it'd feel great. Like, yes, relax, have a cup of tea and a hot shower, lovely. And then I'd start to regret it, think, oh man, I wish I hadn't given up. So I would try to think that even though it's hard now, in the future, I'll be really glad that I kept going. So the future me will be proud if you keep going. Pep, what's the hardest adventure you've done? I think maybe rowing across the Atlantic Ocean. I wrote a book about that. Where's that? Here it is. So I rowed in a little rowing boat across the Atlantic, which is a really hard adventure, and I turned it into a book called The Girl Who Rowed the Ocean, with a girl as the hero of this story. Phoenix says, did you break anything on your journey? We've talked about breaking my foot on a different one, but cycling around the world, mostly I broke my bike. Punctures, broken spokes, broken wheels. Even when I was in the desert, the actual frame of the bike broke and snapped, and I had to find someone who could weld it. So yeah, pretty much everything that could break did break at some point. Olivia L says, what were the favourite animals that you saw? I loved seeing whales and dolphins when I crossed the oceans. I loved, of course, seeing the amazing African animals, lions and elephants and magical animals like that. In South America, I really like seeing the llamas and alpacas up in the mountains. They're sort of funky and funny and beautiful and not very scary, which is good. And then in Canada and Alaska, I really loved seeing grizzly bears. That felt really exciting and wild. Joshua says, how old were you when you began? I was 24 when I began, and I got home just at my 29th birthday. So it was a big, long time away from home. George says, how many countries did you cycle through? I cycled through 60 countries. Rufus asks what type of bike I used. I used a mountain bike. It didn't have suspension. It didn't have clip-in pedals. It was really simple, strong bikes. It didn't need to be fancy. I just needed it to not break. So strong and simple mountain bike. Edie asks, was I scared at the start? I've already answered that one. Yeah, definitely, that was the scariest part. Jude asked me if I won a Guinness World Record. No, Jude, I didn't get a record because I wasn't the first to cycle around the world. The first person to cycle around the world was Thomas Stevens. He did it on a penny farthing. You know, those bikes with a massive front wheel and a tiny back wheel. So I wasn't the first. I wasn't the fastest. A friend of mine called Mark Beaumont, he cycled around the world in 80 days, which is so fast. So no records for me. Faith asks, what was the favourite thing you saw? Well, I loved seeing famous sites like the pyramids in Egypt, the Great Wall of China, Machu Picchu in Peru, the Golden Gate Bridge, the Great Wall of China, the Eiffel Tower, things like that. It's really cool to see, to cycle, and suddenly like, oh wow, there it is. That's pretty exciting. Edward asks, did you meet any other cyclists? Yeah, mostly I was on my own, but occasionally I would bump into someone else who's on a bike adventure. And that was brilliant. That was so nice to be able to talk to someone and share experiences. If they were going the opposite direction, then you could give each other information about what was coming for their adventure. If they were going the same way, then I could ride with them, have some company for a few days, which is really lovely. Hunter asks about animals. I've talked a bit about animals. And Ewan asks, what's the favourite book you've written? Oh, wow. Favourite book I've written. Well, this book, The Boy Bite the World, sells the most copies. So that's I guess that's good. This one I'm proud of because I think we need more books with girls as heroes. I like that one. Also, this is my favourite front cover of a book I've got. These big illustrated ones, these are really cool. I really like these. I don't sell very many of them, but I think they're really nice. These are ones I'm quite proud of. And then I've just written a new book for grown-ups. It's called Local. Quite proud of that. My favourite. I'm probably going to go with that, The Boy Bite the World, as my favourite book. Right, thank you very much to Mrs. Wildman and to all of you at Sharnbrook Primary School in Bedfordshire. Thank you for your excellent questions and reading my book. And most importantly, good luck with your own adventures. Have a good day. Bye-bye.